A child sent from the heavens, foreign to our world, raised by a loving couple who withholds a massive secret from said child. Gifted with otherworldly powers and abilities, the boy grows up to be a symbol of justice to a metropolitan city. His love interest is an outspoken, dark-haired beauty who always finds herself in trouble. The main antagonist is a narcissistic megalomaniac bent on domination and has an inferiority complex to said main character. That sounds a lot like Superman. If you said that, you'd be wrong. Because today, we're talking about Hercules.
Honey, you mean Hercules.
How nightmarishly similar it is to one of my other favorite properties of all time, Smallville. Both Herc and Clark have a very similar origin story when it comes to their retellings. In the traditional Greek mythology, Hercules is the son of Zeus and alchemy, and the foster son of Amphitryon, king of Thebes. Here he's the son of a simple farming folk who seem to be very warm and loving, and advised Hercules not to show off his powers as he would be deemed a freak. In Smallville, however, Clark is advised to hide his powers so he wouldn't become a government experiment. Eventually, in both the pilot and the earlier parts of the movie, both Jonathan and Amphitryon revealed their origins to their sons. Both have a very similar reaction, feeling like an outcast and not having a place to belong.
Clark, I know you're upset. Son, but it's normal. Normal? How about this? Is this normal? I didn't dive in after Lex's car. It hit me at 60 miles an hour.
What do you mean? Your real parents weren't exactly from around here.
Where are they from? What are you trying to tell me, Dad? That I'm from another planet?
But if you found me, then where did I come from? Why was I left here? This was around your neck when we found you.
Granted, the division in Clark and Hercules' character is pretty straightforward. Hercules wants to find answers about his origins, and Clark more or less wants his secret under wraps and be an average, normal teenage boy. Upon meeting their biological fathers, both young men are tasked with fulfilling their trials that will guide them on the path to becoming heroes. In both of their developments, Clark and Herc are faced with dealing with the monster of the week. In Smallville, especially during the earlier seasons, Clark had to deal with meteor freaks, a product of when Clark's ship landed in Smallville all those many years ago, granting different individuals in town with superpowers. Eventually, he would fight more traditional Superman villains like Zod, Bizarro, and Doomsday, which are all a product of his alien origins. Hercules, on the other hand, was faced with combating monsters sent by Hades, which, like Superman, would directly tie into his origins, which starkly clashed in the traditional mythology, with the 12 labors being the product of Hercules absolving his sins to his king cousin. Both guys are generally well-minded but somewhat dorky protagonists, always willing to stick their neck out to help people in crisis. Granted, when Clark did it, he mostly wanted to do it out of guilt, as most of the monsters were a result of him coming to Earth. As for Hercules, he did it to prove himself as a hero and gain recognition to become a god. I like how flawed both characters are because they don't necessarily have the same aspirations of being a hero, because it's not altruistic either. It's more of a burden of responsibility that they feel that they need to do because it's something that they need to do in order to obtain a certain goal. Both versions of the characters are scaled down a lot when it comes to action, and it seems that they get their butts kicked more than they win, which makes it more compelling than the average heroes winning the day story. For Hercules, the monsters were just way stronger than him. And for Clark, the meteor freaks would usually have some ability that would counter his own, that being kryptonite, magic, or some energy draining ability. Both Hercules and Clark have a wide array of sidekicks and mentors that help him grow into men that they would become. For Hercules, he had Pegasus, a gift from his father, and a lovable but somewhat jealous animal sidekick and mode of transportation. Philatides, aka Phil, is a wisecracking satyr that pretty much reminds me of Mickey from Rocky. Clark, on the other hand, has an array of people that would help him on his journey to becoming Superman, starting with Chloe Sullivan, a wisecracking journalist turned technology expert, Pete Ross, Clark's childhood best friend, who for the beginning of Smallville acted as his wingman, and arguably his best friend through the majority of the show, Oliver Queen, aka the Green Arrow, a veteran superhero who's also a romantic rival and overall moral support for our hometown hero. When it comes to love interests, both Smallville and the 97 Hercules film handle love pretty interestingly. For Hercules, he has Megara, confident, outspoken bombshell of a woman who always seems to find herself in the midst of danger. For Clark, on the other hand, he had a series of love interests, but the main two were Lana Lang and Lois Lane. Lana was the girl next door that Clark really shouldn't have been with due to their complicated history. On the day of the meteor shower, Clark inadvertently killed Lana's parents. And throughout the story, he has to deal with the trauma of knowing that killed her parents. And also Lana has to deal with that trauma too, being as she's an orphan now. And it's because of that guilt, Clark feels he needs to hide his secret from Lana, resulting into a series of guys that treated her like crap. And when she finally does get with Clark, they have to break up because it would literally kill him to be around her because she has kryptonite in her veins. His second love interest, and more traditionally, was Lois Lane, who is a confident, outspoken bombshell of a woman who always seems to find herself in the midst of danger. Wait, didn't I already say this? Well, that's because Meg and Lois are a lot alike. They're basically the same person, which is why I love both versions of this character. Both couples have great chemistry, going as far as to tease each other whenever they're in the same room.
We usually take turns in the bathroom.
Oh, don't start with me, Smallville. You're the one taking the marathon shower. Besides, my delicate feminine sensibilities weren't offended the first time I got a glimpse of Clark Jr. Megara. My friends call me Meg, at least they would if I had any friends. So, did they give you a name along with all those rippling pectorals? Are you always this articulate?
Hercules.
Yes! Yes! Come to Papa!
As the story progresses, you can tell that they really love their lady in question. They go as far as to sacrifice their powers to save the woman that they love. Another aspect that makes them very similar is that Meg and Smallville's version of Lois fall for the man and not the legend. In normal interpretation, Lois falls for Superman, not Clark. But this is starkly contrasts when Lois finds out about the Blur, Clark's prior identity before becoming Superman, and she makes it very much known to the Blur that she's in love with Clark. Meg was used as a honeypot originally to trick Hercules into danger, but after getting to know him, she generally likes him as a person. Both women bring out the best in their leading man. The majority of Smallville's run, Clark doesn't seem to go out in public as a superhero. Everything he does is in the shadows, going as far as to inadvertently erase people's memories or have them killed off so no one could expose his secret. Granted, towards the latter half of the series, he becomes the red-blue blur. During the finale, he becomes Superman. By that time, he becomes the champion of truth and justice, and the world is fully aware of his family crest as a universal sign of peace. What makes Hercules' journey so diametrically different is that he initially starts out his journey seeking fame and approval because that's what he originally thinks the merit of a hero is. It really goes to show you how flawed of a character Hercules is. And it's not until both men finally meet the love of their lives that they take their superheroics more seriously and become symbols of their cities. Speaking of cities, both Hercules and Clark patrol bustling metropolitan areas riddled with crime or freaks of nature. For Clark, the first half of the series is in Smallville, and then the later half takes place in Metropolis, while for Hercules, it's the city of Thebes. Both cities are basically analogs for New York, acting as the city of tomorrow. There's a moment in both Hercules and Smallville that really strikes a chord with how narratively these two guys are far from being heroes. For Clark, it was Smallville season 10, episode 1, Lazarus, when he confronts his father, asking why he hasn't earned the right to fly like his cousin Supergirl. In that moment, Clark isn't being a hero because he wants to be a hero. He's being a hero to avoid all of his emotional problems. For Hercules, it's after completing his trials, he confronts his father Zeus with a rousing tale of his accolades. In return, he assumes that he could finally ascend to the heavens, but Zeus lets him know that being a hero isn't about praise or beating up monsters.
You should have been there, Father. I mangled the Minotaur, grappled with the Gorgon. Just like Phil told me. I analyzed the situation, controlled my strength, and kicked. The crowds went wild. Thank you, thank you.
You're doing great, son. You're doing your old man proud.
I'm glad to hear you say that, Father. I've been waiting for this day a long time.
What day is that, son?
The day I rejoined the gods.
You've done wonderfully. You really have, my boy. You're just not there yet. You haven't proven yourself a true hero.
But Father, I've beaten every single monster I've come up against. I'm the most famous person in all of Greece. I'm an action figure.
I'm afraid being famous isn't the same as being a true hero.
What more can I do?
It's something you have to discover for yourself.
But how can I...
Look inside your heart.
Father, wait!
I've done everything you asked. Why are you questioning me now?
Until today, you had focus. You had cleared your mind and heart of those who had kept you tethered to the human realm.
If there's anything that's keeping me tethered, it's that I still can't fly. Have I not earned the same powers that Kara has?
Your powers lie within you, Kal-El. Your physical composition is no different than your cousin's.
You're saying it's all in my head?
You still see yourself as a human.
You're wrong. I gave up everyone I cared about. I gave up everyone who was important to me. I wear the symbol of our family every day to remind me that I have a different destiny.
Perhaps you tried to move on too quickly. The test of a true hero is to struggle with feelings of loss and to overcome them, not to avoid them. Something or someone is holding you back.
No. I've come this far and I'm not looking back. I can do this.
Finally, we have the villains. Hades and Lex are different, yet somewhat similar. Lex starts out as one of Clark's closest friends, but due to a series of lies and deception and jealousy, becomes the most bitter enemy. And it's through that intense jealousy you can see how his inferiority complex presents itself. Lex, having such high status and all the money to boot, doesn't feel loved and appreciated the same way Clark does because he has a loving family and girlfriend, who eventually he steals from Clark, but even then, she doesn't really love him. But what's so great about Lex is that he always is the smartest man in the room, always having some elegant, sophisticated way of talking himself out of situations and also drawing you into that character. Hades, on the other hand, is a lot like Lex. He's established as a god, but because of his position and his envy towards Zeus, also has an inferiority complex. And to that has the machinations of taking over Mount Olympus. Like Lex, Hades has a way of talking to people that makes you want to listen, but instead of long, eloquent sentences, he would talk more like a slick car salesman or a radio jockey. Fun fact, James Woods was once the voice of Lex Luthor in Justice League Action, so everything comes full circle.
How sentimental. You know, I haven't been this choked up since I got a hunk of moussaka caught in my throat. Huh? So is this an audience or a mosaic?
That Lex Luthor deemed your prototype decent enough to steal. So long, dummies! Those fools had no clue what they had in their hands.
Both Clark and Hercules even have a battle with their toughest opponent yet, a giant brooding monster. For Clark, it was Doomsday, a killing machine created by his father's greatest enemy, Zod, while Hercules had to fight the Cyclops, a leftover titan who was also an enemy of his father. Both of these monsters end up bringing our heroes to the brink of death in some way, shape, or form. For Clark, he had to take Doomsday to the center of the earth and seemingly dies, but not really. Hercules, after getting beaten up by the monster, eventually tricks the Cyclops into stumbling over and knocking himself out. Overall, Disney's Hercules and Smallville both fundamentally had an effect on my perception on what it meant to be a hero growing up, and I will forever be grateful for what both superhero stories had with their interpretation of the Man of Steel.